Happy New Year, and welcome to Old Drunken Discography, where old friends and fans come together to BS, argue, occasionally agree, and discuss a musical artist. This is our deep dive discography, where we will discuss an artist's discography, including any non-studio album releases that are important as we go along. We'll be ranking the albums in order of greatness, and give our recommendations at the end. Today's artist is Mr. Bungle. We will be talking about the first album called Mr. Bungle. If you like this content, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to see how these album rankings shake out. We also have a Discord link below where you can join our little community, talk about music, show off your vinyl, and take part in polls to give your feedback on your favorite albums. So come hang out with us. Patreon members get access to special channels where they can help choose the next artist and even pick one of their own with their rankings added into the show. So check that out. So, with that out of the way, let's get started. With me today, his ass is on fire, Tim.
Good morning.
He's spreading the thighs of death, Colquitt.
Yes. Yes, that was beautiful.
And he didn't know any of them were robots, Joe.
Hey.
He's slowly growing deaf. That's Jason.
Yeah, I listened to a lot of Bungle in the last week. All right. So, relationship with the artist. We always start off with that. I guess I'll go first since it's be easy. I know the name. I remember California. Never really cared. I've heard Joe talk about this band for years. I've heard Tim talk about this band for years. I've heard Burnham talk about this band for years. Now I finally was forced to listen to it. So, that's my relationship.
Right. I'll go next because mine's just as short. I have loved Faith No More since The Real Thing dropped. Always been my favorite band. So, of course, I knew of Mr. Bungle because seeing Mike Patton wear the T-shirt for the band during the Epic video alerted me to their presence immediately. And I went and checked this record out, and I couldn't get into it because I was too young, and this band is very expansive. But I tried with other records, and it just never clicked until later. But we'll get to that in another video, I suppose. And yeah, man, love Mike Patton, respect the hell out of these guys, but I've tried, but I never got into it.
All right. What about you, Joe?
I actually sort of through Tim learned about Mr. Bungle because Michael Burnham played me California. I was a fan of Faith No More early. I remember pitching a huge fit because my dad wouldn't take me to see the Angel Dust tour. And but then kind of just and I knew the Mr. Bungle T-shirt from the Epic video, but I never got the album. So I kind of forgot about them because I was a teenager and those years are really long. And then when California was new, Michael Burnham played it for me, and I'm pretty sure Tim played it for him. And then I went down a pretty crazy rabbit hole for a few years where I was kind of listening to everything that anybody in Mr. Bungle did, everything from Ipecac Records, everything from the Web of Mimicry. I just went down the rabbit hole for a few years. And here I am, yeah.
All right, we got the right guest this week. All right,
Yeah.
Tim, what about you?
I'm kind of all of those stories combined. I probably found them in '98 is when I finally really listened to them and really figured out the albums. I was, even up until that point, I was, of course, aware of Faith No More, and so I was vaguely aware of Mr. Bungle, and I had heard songs here and there, radio, friends, whatever, but it had never clicked with me either until when Album of the Year came out. Last Cup of Sorrow hit me real hard at the time, this is really cool. Loved that album. Immediately went down the rabbit hole, and between '98 and then I saw Patton live for the first time in '98. I was lucky enough to see the second Phantom Oz show ever. And yeah, '98, the year before the first album and Ipecac started. And so I've been on board with that since day one. and yeah, when California came out, I bought it first day. And at that point, I was already pretty deep down the rabbit hole, and that just sent me way down the rabbit hole. And then going back to like the Caca Volante days and the FTP sites, the wealth of bootlegs, and then eventually you find the old school demos and more bootlegs. And I've been lucky enough to see Bungle now 3 times live, and I'll go again. They're amazing every time.
Mad props for bringing up Caca Volante. I remember when there were websites and not just social media, and Caca Volante was the coolest. If you had needed any information about Faith No More and Mr. Bungle,
I remember when Caca Volante was a news group.
Yeah,
and
man. Yeah,
email chain. Yeah,
man. Yeah, dude. I miss the old internet. It was better.
It was. I agree. Chat rooms were the best.
All right, so who wants to start talking about this first record real quick? Tim, you're holding it. This was your pick. Why don't you lead us on?
Yeah, man. 1998, I had a pizza delivery job.
Yes,
Domino's.
Yes. I used to come hang out with you.
And
sponsor us.
And I had put one of these albums in. This was in the car, just on repeat as I'm living in my car on repeat for probably a good 6-8 months, and just soaked it in. Yeah, what a great album. We talk about the magical period there in 1991 where music could do no wrong, and this was right at the heart of it. Jason, do you know if Blood, Sugar, Sex, Magic came out before this or after this?
Came out after.
Yeah, it did.
After.
So we had to look it up because I was curious. It's in my notes. I had a question.
I mean, hey, question there, though, because, like, I feel like this actually sounds more like they're making fun of the Red Hot Chili Peppers before Blood, Hot Sugar, Sex, Magic. Like, there's parts on here, like, I'm just like, yo,
well,
yes,
have you heard
this
Mother's
sounds like
Milk and all
the
the
Catholic
previous
Schoolgirls and other records kind of thing.
Well, and to be fair, I'm sure in the 80s when all those original Chili Peppers albums and original Mr. Bungle demos were being made, they were both well aware of each other and possibly influenced by each other.
Yeah.
That California scene of experimental music with Fishbone, Primus kind of comes out of that. Like there's a small scene up and down that coast, and Mr. Bungle are on the outskirts, and the Chili Peppers are in Hollywood. So it's 2 different worlds.
Oh, and it shows.
But it's also 2 different outlooks. Mr. Bungle they already hate it all. They're done with pop music and what their peers are doing. They're already ready to just take it to outer space. And yeah, that's where they start. But really, they're starting at the carnival.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that. Speaking of carnivals, it kind of reminds me of Stephen King's Joyland.
Oh yeah, yeah. I would imagine if you're reading Joyland and listening to the first Mr. Bungle album, both would make more sense.
Yeah. I've got
not that this doesn't make sense. You can clearly hear all of the demos that came before it, including The Raging Wrath of the Easter Bunny, which we'll get to later. But yeah, it's a metal album. It was, advertised as a metal album. But it's also alternative. It's also ska. It's also very jazz influenced, produced by John Zorn, of course. There's a lot of 70s funk influence here. There's a lot of circus music. There's hip hop. The 91 is kind of that meld where rock and rap were starting to intertwine.
Yep.
Because they were both becoming legitimate forms of music to the major public. Yeah, there's a lot of pop on here. It's a wild album that, in a nutshell, I like to call their pornographic circus music. The lyrics are very juvenile. There's also a lot of very insightful stuff. You know, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Mike Patton is the greatest singer going. Like, he could, anything he does, it's going to be better than anybody else who tries to do it. For sure. And he all over this album. The vocal performance is incredible. Yeah, the range. You're going to get some death metal growls. You're going to actually get verse and a chorus of Mariah Carey's Vision of Love. You're going to get, you know, at the end of Slowly Growing Deaf, he's going to go get a cup of coffee, and then you listen to somebody use the restroom. But they even go a little more meta with it, because the sample over that is Colonel Sanders messing up a commercial. And if you're not a coffee drinker, maybe you're a KFC eater. I don't know. Either way, the sample. There's a lot of sampling on here. This was when sampling was really becoming a thing, and much like the Beastie Boys' Paul's Boutique, which is like the reigning champion of the craziest samples ever. This is close. There's you get a lot of Blue Velvet samples. You get a lot of Nintendo samples. It's all over the place. The whole thing is great. The songs from the demos that you could hear previous versions of are Squeeze Me Macaroni, Carousel, Egg, The Girls of Porn, and I think that's it. But it does turn out that Love is a Fist now has an asterisk, with an official fourth album being released. Mr. Bungle's an interesting band. They're up until very recently on the big reunion, their entire official output was in the 90s.
And on Warner Brothers.
On Warner Brothers.
It's crazy. It's insane that Warner Brothers put this out. It's just crazy.
Oh, I'm going to touch on that in my...
It's mentioned on the album. They can't even believe it.
Well, yeah. I've heard Trey talk about it, and Trey said that like basically their albums cost little enough and made just enough for them to go under the radar.
Yeah.
And,
they didn't lose money for the company.
Yeah. Yeah. So but yeah, it's crazy when you listen to this stuff and think this is on a major label. It's nuts.
It's experimental.
It's super experimental, and I definitely feel like this is the circusy one. You know, it's like I just kind of jumped in line. So sorry, guys.
No, go ahead.
Good. No, you're perfect. Go ahead.
But one of the things I really enjoy about this album is the sampling. I feel like they do use sampling through a lot of their discography, but this is the one where they do it really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it's just a super, super funky album. And
it's one of the most pop culture samples.
Yeah.
Everything else gets really obscure, but this one, you got Cheech and Chong films, and
but it's
God,
really...
Well, the original little short that because I remember after I heard this record, I saw an episode of Mystery Science Theater 3000 where they actually had the short where the band name came from in the show. So I was like, oh my God, that's a weird coincidence. I didn't even know. But yeah, man, that's sampled on here too, I think. That actually
they play the whole clip. Yeah.
Super awesome. Joe?
Oh, it's me again?
Yeah, go ahead. Finish up. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. I mean, Tim went into the details really, but
everyone's so
really, this album for me is just like banger after banger. Like I hadn't listened to it in a couple of years when I listened to it to get on here, and I was just like, man, I love every track on this record. The musicianship on this record is insane. Like the songwriting's insane. Like everything about this record is just like I listen to stuff. What's up?
The production of this album is really.
Oh, the production's amazing. John Zorn, yeah, like
yeah,
yeah.
And there is a bootleg out there of the rough mix of basically what was done before Zorn got a hold of the album, which is notable too because 3 songs ended up not making the cut. There's a cover of the Tom Jones classic Thunderball theme song.
Oh, yeah.
They also had a demo song from OU818 called Mr. Nice Guy, which you can kind of see why it doesn't fit the album, but I kind of wish they did. And then you also had the 3rd song, which was a first album version of Platypus, which we'll be talking about at a later album. But it was already ready to go, and they even attempted it here, but didn't make the final cut.
I did hear that because so many of these songs came from the demos that they've been playing them for a few years, and they're kind of over them at this point.
Yeah.
But when they signed to Warner Brothers, we have these songs ready to go, so they just kind of jumped in the studio and started making it.
And
right?
you can even see it in the bootlegs from the first tour across North America. They're playing with the songs in ways where, like, you'll get a ska version of Love is a Fist, or you'll get the death metal version of Squeeze Me Macaroni, or, they're just playing with everything. And you'll get a polka version of Nirvana's Territorial Pissings. A lot of, just craziness. Or you'll get a 911 as a joke by Public Enemy, or, some Milli Vanilli, or, Queen. Like, it was just all over the place.
Yeah. Didn't they write most of this while they were in high school?
Yes.
They started the band when they were in high school, and
the Bunny
various songs like Egg goes all the way back to Bowla Chiley.
Okay. I don't know what that is, but
it's one of the early demos. It's their second official release. It was on cassette in 1986 or whatever. And it's well worth checking out. You can find all those demos on YouTube. There's amazing stuff on all of them. They are kids in the 80s with a 4-track, but those kids ended up putting out one of the greatest debut albums of all time.
Dude. Yeah, no, I'm just
the musicianship here is insane.
It just blows my mind that they wrote just like their creative genius was at such a young age that they just it sounds unreal to know that somebody that young would come up with stuff that's amazing. Anyway, sorry.
Well, I've got some notes as a first-time listener.
Let's go.
I got some notes. Travolta, why was there 32 seconds of silence at the beginning? This has some carnival sound shit. Speaking of, Tim called that. I'm already digging it. Crazy musical shifts throughout. Has this quiet, creepy part. I like how Patton rhymed ecstasy and olfactory and made it work. Highly recommend surround sound speakers or headphones with this one. There's some crazy panning going on.
Did you catch in Dead Goon the panning when the protagonist of the story is finally swinging from the ceiling fan? You can hear the creak pan left to right, and it slows down.
Oh, God, no. I think by that point I had taken the headphones off because my kid was in here.
All of these albums are great for headphones, but this one especially.
100%.
You pick out all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah. Squeeze Me Macaroni. This shit's name dropping Betty Crocker, and it sounds like 80s Chili Peppers. I'm loving it. 3 songs in this discography, and I've already found a top song contender. Fuck, this song is better than All Faith No More. That's what my notes say.
Well, you were insane, sir. It's a good song, but my God, let's not get out of control here.
Carousel, another funky one. Great lyrics. Will Warner Brothers put our record on the shelf, take a look in the mirror and see the clown on yourself, ties into the album cover. Fucking love that shit. I love carnival music, and what's cool as shit about this song is Patton's voice is the carnival music. It's pretty fucking nuts. Egg, my notes are weird for this one. Funky, insane, all over the place. Eggs, question mark. Screaming guitar solo. Patton from the streets, question mark. Patton goes hardcore, question mark. Slow Sabbath part. There's no place like home. Laughing and crying. Improv, question mark. Background noise. There were parts of this one that were amazing. All the different voices Patton does for the no place like home part could have left off the last few minutes. Stub-a-dub, we back in the carnival. Every second of music on this track is amazing. Lyrically, what the fuck is going on? It's about a dog, right? Does he hate the dog?
Trey's dog.
Trey's dog. Stub died.
Okay, because did he hate the dog? Is the dog getting old? Is the dog a metaphor? I had questions. But I guess you
The dog is a metaphor. This whole album is boiling hot in euphemism. But yeah, the dog got sick,
Okay.
and so they were trying to like make it better. But being a young kid, he's going through all these emotions. So does he hate the dog?
Yeah, I guess that makes sense now.
At the very end, it closes with him crying, and then he's punching himself,
The girls
just like a clown would do.
Yeah, this fucking album, my ass is on fire. Love the guitar sounds, the riffs in this one. For debut album, the production on this is fantastic. Back to the song, fuck car alarms, that sound triggers me. Luckily, they didn't have it going long. The last few minutes, holy shit, it reminded me of early Beck, and I'm a sucker for that noise. The clip of the film that got the band name, that's what that was at.
You were talking about the redundant part, where he's just screaming redundant over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The Girls of Porn, it's a homage song for the We Got segment. Patton's voice, holy shit. Sir Psycho Sexy got nothing on this song. Musically, lyrically, delivery.
What gets me about that song is that horn line. The horns on that song are so funky.
Oh, yeah.
It's great.
EO.
Yeah, like, the whole album is just phenomenal. The fact that it's their debut is insane. And the fact that it came out before Blood Sugar Sex Magic is crazy. I don't know. I like this record.
At the time, Patton was the one people were kind of putting their money on to be the hit maker. And it kind of shows an attitude towards motivations towards making music. Where are you just going to become the hit factory, or are you going to start pretty experimental and get even weirder? But also age like a fine wine, unlike the hit maker that has become a meme.
Kind of on that point, I've actually heard Trey talking about this in a podcast. Patton does this thing with his voice where sometimes he'll throw in a note that's doesn't quite go with the chord that's being
right.
put,
Yeah,
to add a little bit of dissonance. And you listen to Faith No More, you listen to Mr. Bungle, you listen to all of his projects, and here and there it's like kind of all over the place. But he does it kind of regularly, and it's to kind of make it a little less soothing, a little more dissonant.
It
works. That's what catches you instead of just hearing the same musical ideas over and over again. You have tricks and you have tools, and you look at his live rig over the years, like the California tour into the first or the second Tomahawk album. He was touring with a whole, he had a setup with 4 microphones all hooked up to different things.
Yeah, the whole table.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll get to Tomahawk now. I think that's the next on the Patton journey, right?
Yeah, I can't wait.
They're up to 5 albums, and that's going to be a tough one.
Yes, I love Tomahawk very much.
All right, well, Colquitt, what's your thoughts on this first album?
Sorry, my dog started whining, and I'm like, you gotta chill. I don't
Thanks,
have. Mom. Wait, what?
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah. Thanks, Mom. Yeah, for real. There's so many like meme-worthy things on this record, like knick knack patty whack. Like, dude, like that's just, it's classic. I don't like this record that much though. I don't know, man. Like, there's parts that I really appreciate that. It's like there's parts that are almost like you can hear where Dillinger Escape Plan decided to make their sound from. Like, there's some serious cool math metal things going on in this record, but at the same time, there's also a weird carnival ska scary thing going on, and I'm not a circus music guy. I'm not a ska guy. I think that the songs are just gorgeous in their production, and the fact that they were able to come up with the crazy compositions are phenomenal. But like going through the discography, this wasn't my favorite, man. It just wasn't. I found out I like other weird stuff more than this weird stuff, I guess. But it's still a beautiful record. It leads into where they go in a way, because every record on this has a song that could be on this record. I feel like it's a theme that goes throughout their entire discography. Yeah, man. I just remember hearing this after the Real Thing, and I was 10 also. So I mean, to be fair, I was a wee tot when I heard this the first time. I would think it was at the skating rink, and somebody had it on their Walkman on a cassette at a lock-in, and they played me Squeeze Me Macaroni, actually. And it was dope. I mean, I enjoyed it, but going back and listening to it now, I'm like, there's these hints of greatness on this record, but overall it just didn't hit me. I mean, I can always laugh at Egg. I can always laugh at My Ass Is on Fire. The Girls of Porn just makes me kind of embarrassed now that I'm older, but I thought it was really funny when I was younger. And Love Is a Fist is a classic that will always be a classic. Like, that is just a great damn song.
Man, The Girls is a homage.
It kind of is. I mean, that's the other thing is, like, Tim was talking about how there's so many covers on the live show for this band, and that's always been a Mike Patton thing too. He's always done cover songs, and I think he likes to show homage to stuff like through cover songs. Even though he might be making fun of them, he still kind of loves them enough to do the cover. Like he's got this very satirical, artistic presentation that's always been very endearing to me. I've always appreciated that, and that's the other thing. Like what Tim or Joe, I don't remember exactly who. It might have been both of you. The fact that he was considered to be the hit maker versus old Anthony, and he chose art instead of hits and commercialization because, let's be fair, Red Hot Chili Peppers were definitely the commercial success of these two battlers. And I respect Mike Patton and this band for being like, nah, you know what? We're going to be avant-garde. We're going to be artists. We're going to push the limits of sonic territory. And I will always respect this band so very much.
Well, and Trey and Trevor are both classically trained.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. That's like when I was thinking of the guys from Dillinger went to Berkeley, so they've got this very progressive improvisational style that's very jazz-like and John Zorn-like, I would even say, and that's definitely evident on this record too. Like, I was wondering if they went to Berkeley or some music school and got like classically trained into something.
Well, Trey originally wrote Travolta as a big band song, and then Patton came in and made it what it is. Like,
I think they went to like NorCal.
Yeah,
they were in the music programs, and I'm sure they were they were soaking it all in. And anybody who's been through a music program knows, it's all about classicals, and it's all about jazz, and it's all about finding the weirdest thing you can.
Yeah, it's pushing music forward as opposed to being stagnating. Yeah.
My final thoughts on this album was it's a really fun album and much better than I expected going in. The production was great. It sounded like Faith No More on acid. I think I liked it more than Faith No More, to be honest. Patton's voice just kind of fit this music better to me, this carnival crazy vibe. Like,
Well,
Patton
that's the other
just-
thing. Also, I feel like this band, like with Mike Patton, he felt more comfortable with this band, so he was pushing his vocal limit to a way that he never did. Like everything on Faith No More vocally you hear happened on a Bungle record first, for sure.
Well, okay, so to put that into perspective a little bit, though, just because of the timeline, the real thing came out, and then this came out, and then Angel Dust came out, and I think between this album and Angel Dust, I think that's where Patton really discovered his studio voice, as well as his public persona. Whereas the real thing was he was in the band for like 2 weeks, and he didn't know what they wanted. He didn't know what he could get away with. He just gave them one thing.
Yeah. No, it's definitely real thing is their pop.
But there are hints that he can do more. And that's what made the real thing so great, is the hints are there where like, oh, this could go somewhere really good. Yes. And it, and it did. But this beat Angel Dust, this was out before Angel Dust.
Mm-hmm.
And you can hear it immediately. Like, that's where the change happens, and he's stuck with this sense. So to say that like it happened on a Bungle album first, like, no, because then Angel Dust came out and he tried stuff there, and then '95 both bands put out an album, and then it goes from there, So
well, yeah,
I feel
no,
like he's
and
less
I would also argue
restrained on Bungle as far as like his. He just seems to do a hell of a lot more on this.
He was
album.
more experimental. Like
Yeah.
with the real thing, it was his first major label record. Like I feel like that's a very pop record vocally. Like there's not a lot of changes and different variation. In this record, I hear things that he did on Angel Dust, and then on Disco, I hear stuff that he did on King for a Day. And it's just like I do feel that they kind of go back and forth, and like he lets loose on the Bungle records. And he takes what works from the Bungle records and puts them more into the Faith No More format. That's all I was trying to say.
Okay.
It's a synthesis, man.
It's a beautiful career. And is connected. Yeah, it's a beautiful career.
So this is how we're gonna do these rankings now. Next video we'll talk disco, and then we'll rank as we go. So right now, this is the only album we've heard or talked about, so it's number 1. Anybody got any?
Go team! First record.
Final? Any first hashtag first album bias? Does anybody have anything else to say about the first record?
No, man. I'm excited to talk about the rest of them, though. And hey, check out our Faith No More videos if you're checking this out and are curious. We made an entire video I made 3 videos about them.
Right when Cole Quit started talking, I wrote a note, and at the end of the rankings in the last video, I'll read that note because I guarantee you it's going to come true.
I remember. I know where this is headed.
I don't, and I'm involved.
Yeah, I'm lost.
Stick around.
All right,
Subscribe.
so we're in these together. We don't know either. It'll be fun.
Yep. Subscribe to find out what the hell we're talking about.
Like they will. They have no idea.
Yeah. Now you guys got to go back and watch the video.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, does anybody have any final thoughts about Mr. Bungle, self-titled?
It's banger after banger.
Banger after
It is banger after banger. I agree with that.
It's evil circus ska.
Yeah. Pornographic circus music.
Yes.
I agree with every statement that was just said.
There's also a lot of thrash going on.
Yeah.
Like
some mathcore, like all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been our discussion on Mr. Bungle's first album. Give us a like and subscribe to hear our thoughts on Disco Volante and see where it stacks up against the self-titled album. We appreciate you, and as always, be safe, make good decisions.
Knick, knack, patty, whack.
Don't be a Mr. Bungle.